are 3 signs you might have a solar plexus blockage, and here's what to do about it. So hey guys, when it comes to looking at the solar plexus chakra, let's take a minute here to say that right now I have been going deep into the different chakras and how you can start to look at the signs and symptoms that are the main core 3 symptoms that you have an imbalance or blockage in that particular chakra. Now today I wanted to dive deep into the solar plexus chakra, as you can see my outfit. So when it comes to looking at the solar plexus chakra, we have to start to look at what are the core signs and symptoms that you might have an imbalance in the solar plexus. Now, when it comes to looking at the solar plexus chakra, this is one of the most common chakras that people have imbalances due to how our society is run. In general, we've been playing a lot with the last 3 chakras, or the first 3 chakras in the chakra system. And that's for good reason, because a lot of the times when we have a particular illness or a particular blockage or an imbalance that shows up, a lot of the times, not always, but a lot of the times it can often come from the first 3 chakras. This is where we have the most conditioning, usually around the time that we are in childhood. This happens because these particular 3 chakras develop when we are a child into our adolescence and so forth. So today I want to talk about the 3 common blocks that you can find in the solar plexus in your own life, where if you have a particular symptom or particular signs start to show up, this is what to look out for. So let's dive in. Hey. Guys, it is Ashley from theawakenstate.net, from Awaken and Manifest Your Best Life, the podcast experience. All right, so today I really wanted to dive deep into the solar plexus chakra. Now, if you haven't been with us, we've been diving into a lot of the chakras, and if you just look at the channel, there is all sorts of chakra goodness going on. We have the heart chakra meditation, we have the third eye meditation, we also got signs and symptoms that you have a root chakra block, or signs and symptoms you have a sacral chakra block. So today I want to continue on with that little beautiful series and go into the solar plexus. Now, here's the thing. I have had a lot of loving attention towards the solar plexus chakra. It was one of the chakras that helped me so much in developing my business. And most importantly, it was a beautiful chakra that helped me connect to spiritual awakening. Now, the reason why I say this is because many of you don't know, when I was younger, I had gallbladder disease and my gallbladder just stopped working. And I ended up having surgery on my gallbladder. And basically, your gallbladder is connected with the solar plexus. And so is your liver and your digestive system and so forth. So this chakra in particular has affected me a lot of my life. Now, this means I know a ton about how to heal it, because it's something I've worked on personally within my own spiritual awakening journey. Now, when it comes to looking at the solar plexus chakra, it is above our navel, our belly button. It's important to look at 3 key signs that you might have an imbalance or a blockage in that particular chakra. Now, the solar plexus is all about the color yellow, and most importantly, the solar plexus is connected to how we take action in life. So if you have a hard time taking action, it might be a solar plexus imbalance. If you have a really hard time taking action, being consistent, staying motivated, it might be a solar plexus block, which is to say this is our first sign that you might have an imbalance or a blockage in the solar plexus chakra. You have a very hard time taking action. You struggle a lot with taking action. When it comes to looking at the solar plexus, when we have an imbalance going on in the solar plexus, a lot of the times we're kind of in the survival brain, and it makes us in fight or flight, and most of all, fight when it comes to the solar plexus, because the solar plexus is connected a lot to our emotions of anger and shame. And when we look at how the solar plexus is developed, it's usually developed when we are starting to literally develop our identity as a person. This is our ego. So when it comes to looking at how we take action, we might be having some excuses that are coming up from our ego saying that we cannot move forward. So a huge part of looking at the solar plexus is if you have a lot of excuses when it comes to taking action, if you have a lot of like, I really don't know if I should do this, and you keep kind of like having a battle in your head on if you should do it, if you should not do it, and you stop yourself due to fear or insecurity or lack. And most importantly, when you get into that framework of almost like a victim mentality of like, I really can't take action because of XYZ, this might be an imbalance in the solar plexus. Now, I say this with absolute love because when I say the word victim mindset, I don't want you to take anything the wrong way. But instead, we were looking at it from victim consciousness, where we feel like we're powerless over our circumstance, or we believe that we're not a co-creator of reality. When it comes to looking at the solar plexus especially, this particular sign will show you a lot about how you're taking action. So if you have a very hard time taking action and you have a bunch of excuses about taking action, and most importantly, maybe you're kind of always battling in your head on, I shouldn't take action, I should take action, I feel confused about taking action, and it's causing you to go into flight mode where you're overthinking, overanalyzing, and you're spending more time in your head than actually taking the action forward, which is making you lose motivation and so forth. That is a sign that there's an imbalance in the solar plexus, without question. What is the second thing? The second thing when we have a solar plexus imbalance or a block is we might have some issues with controlling. We might have some issues with controlling behaviors. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to looking at controlling behaviors, it's complicated. We can start to see this as maybe you're trying to force your beliefs in your relationship. Maybe you're trying to control your relationship and so forth. When you're not letting your own person be in their own true spiritual light, that can come off as a controlling issue. At the same time, maybe you always try to control your kids and so forth. And a lot of this comes from our childhood and our own conditioning or our emotional wounds and so forth. So a controlling issue where maybe you feel powerless over a particular situation, but you're having a lot of issues with controlling the situation, so you try to personally control it. I can think of a really easy example here, if you want to just hear one of my own, is like I remember when my son was a toddler and he refused to eat, and it freaked me out because he was just starving, and I was just like, oh my God, he needs to eat. And like I remember yelling at him because I'm like, you have to eat, you have to eat. And I realized in that moment that, oh shit, I'm trying to control his ability to eat. I can't force him to eat. He has to learn how to eat himself. I can't do anything about that. I am literally powerless over this situation, so I'm trying to control that situation. I'm sure if you're a parent, you've probably related to this story a little. But in general, I want you to think about how in that situation, I was powerless. It was somebody else's entire situation that I was trying to control, but it's their willpower. So here's the thing. This is the magic word, willpower. When it comes to looking at the solar plexus, there's a lot of emphasis on our willpower. Either we're controlling or we're weak-willed. And when I say weak-willed, I mean we feel powerless over a particular circumstance, but it's an illusion in our mind. But there's other circumstances like what I just mentioned, is we feel controlling towards a particular relationship or a particular situation. This can also manifest in terms of manifestation, where we're trying to control the outcome instead of releasing the outcome. That's 100% another way that we could have an imbalance in the solar plexus. If we find ourselves constantly trying to control the outcome when it comes to manifestation, that can also be an indicator of a solar plexus imbalance. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to weak-willed versus controlling and where you're dominant, that can be an indicator where there's work to do, where you need to let go of control and surrender to flow and to surrender to your own willpower and so forth. And a lot of that is about reconnecting to your own willpower and your personal power. There was a loss of power somewhere, and so you have to learn how to personally reclaim that power. That's a huge part of what it comes to understanding the solar plexus. Now, what is the third sign? Well, here's the thing. When it comes to looking at the third sign of the solar plexus, I would say one of the hugest ones that is just a major red flag is you're a workaholic. When you are a workaholic and you have no time for play, no time for relaxation, and you kind of just have all of these excuses about relaxing, maybe you have a very hard time relaxing and you're always working. Even when you're off, you're still working. Even when you're at home, you're still working. Even when you're going out, you're still kind of in the work brain headspace. That's an indicator that there's a solar plexus imbalance because there's no time to release control and just allow in pleasure. This mentality of the solar plexus, it will manifest itself in many ways, but the hugest one that I see is if we feel like we're never good enough to stop. We feel like we're never good enough, like what we do isn't good enough. So we're always kind of in a loop of making sure what we do is good enough. So we keep trying to transfix on this is never good enough, this is never good enough, this is never good enough. So I'm going to keep doing to fulfill being good enough. And that cycle comes in the form of being a workaholic. And if you think about it, this makes sense because when you feel like you're not doing enough, what do you try to do? You try to do more and do more and do more and do more until you reach the point of burnout. And unfortunately, this is how a lot of people have a solar plexus block because they're running on empty most of the time. And it's like they're soul starved. And they're coming from this mentality of where they're constantly working, and they never can relax and recharge their energy. And that's what kind of burns out the solar plexus. So it's kind of like we're like a battery, and then eventually our battery runs out, right? And we have to recharge the battery. Well, when we don't do that, we create a solar plexus block. How do we understand if we have a healthy solar plexus? Let's flip the dial and talk about what does it mean when we have a healthy solar plexus? Well, when we have a healthy solar plexus, we often will know when to take action. Most importantly, we will intuitively be aware of when to take action, when to rest, and we have enough awareness to tune into our body to know when's the right action, when we need to rest, and so forth. There's a balance of knowing when to take action, when to not take action, when to stop, when to rest. And I think there's a beautiful flux of masculine and feminine energy going on behind the scenes when we have a healthy solar plexus because we're allowing ourselves to tune into our body and our natural soul's intuition. Another thing when it comes to looking at a healthy solar plexus, we might be the opposite of where we're a workaholic, where we know that we are good enough. We have felt into the sensations of knowing we are good enough as a whole, as a person. We know we are worthy. We know we are good enough. And so we have a natural confidence. We have a natural confidence in our self-esteem, in who we are. And when we have this beautiful framework of knowing we are good enough, knowing we can be consistent, knowing that we can show up and honor ourselves, but also rest, but also have work and play, also have that pleasure, also know that we can stop. That awareness shift of developing that confidence, it boosts our self-esteem. And because we have that self-esteem boost, we are naturally more confident. And when we are more confident, we are more likely to take action. And that's really what it's about. So you can have a healthy solar plexus when you notice that you have a lot of motivation, you have a lot of encouragement, and you kind of have a natural confidence. And that natural confidence is stemming from a very healthy solar plexus chakra. If you think about it, when the last time you were happy, I bet you were so in tune with taking the action forward. But when you were like kind of sad and grumpy and you were kind of in your head about shit, you probably had a really hard time taking action. And that's because like the solar plexus got affected. So this is the way that it works in relationship to the mind-body connection. Like we don't always realize that the actions we take are affecting our energy all the time. And so it's important to see that when it comes to the solar plexus and understanding our ego, we have to also realize that there's a beautiful way where we can start to mature the ego when it comes to the solar plexus. A lot of the times when we understand the solar plexus, we have a beautiful way of maturing our ego, to understand our ego, to notice, when we're in victim consciousness and how to transcend out of that and so forth. And a big part of that is due to developing that natural confidence to move forward, to take the action, to, make the phone call you need to make, to be the adult, and so forth. And I think it's powerful to see that the solar plexus is a big missing piece for so many people because it can help you have that confidence to go after your dreams, to take the right action, to ask the boy out, to do whatever. And I think it's so powerful. And this is something that we talked about in the Ultimate Chakra Academy, is you can see the difference when someone works on their solar plexus, because they will immediately stop avoiding things. They will stop avoiding things and they'll start taking action. They'll start having the motivation they need. They will start moving forward, and they'll notice that it's like, wow, this thing I was sitting on for months, suddenly I feel inspired. Suddenly I feel motivated. I just want to jump into action. That's because they're doing the work. That's because they're working on the solar plexus. The final thing when it comes to understanding a healthy solar plexus is, most of all, being happy. When people are more joyful naturally, when they're naturally more confident, when you have a natural joy, when you are more joyful and you look for the joy in life and you look for more of the positives in life and you have more of an optimistic demeanor and you look at the bright side of life, a lot of the times those people have a very healthy solar plexus. And that's because they're doing that work. They're showing up and taking the action. They feel that confidence. They feel that motivation and so forth. And they're working on letting go of control. And they're tuning back into their body. They're connecting into their intuition and so forth. So understanding the solar plexus is a beautiful way where you can enhance how you're taking action. Most importantly, I believe the solar plexus is the best way to understand how to boost your self-esteem, to make sure that you're going after your goals, to have the right confidence in your job interview, and so forth. There's so many ways that we can benefit from the solar plexus chakra that you might not be thinking about in terms of just looking behind the scenes of signs and symptoms of blockages. And most importantly, what does it look like to have a healthy solar plexus? Okay, so if you deeply enjoyed this conversation and you want to learn more about the chakras, I highly recommend diving into my brand new Chakra Starter Toolkit, where we have a behind the scenes look of how you can start to understand energy if you're new to energy, how you can start to look at energy vibrations and its connection to the chakra system, and most importantly, learn how you can personally heal the 7 chakras with my chakra detox framework. So if you're interested in that, it's at theawakensedstate.net/chakra, and I'll leave a link down below for you. If you enjoyed this conversation, please give us a like, because that shows YouTube we are awesome, and I'll see you guys next time.